The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
What terrorists do is target the innocent deliberately. And therefore, my definition of terrorism is the systematic and deliberate attack, the murder, maiming, and menacing of innocents, civilians, for political goals. You can tell a lot about terrorists, but what happens when they come to power? Those who fight for freedom and come to power do not impose terrorism. Those who do, who fight in terroristic means, end up as being masters of terrorist states.
Man, there's so many things I can say about that, but what I will say is that is a 1997 clip from Benjamin Netanyahu where he's basically defining what terrorism is to him. And that thing is circulating around Instagram for sure. I didn't really see it on TikTok, but it's making the rounds on Instagram as people are finding it very, very ironic, those words. Actually, you know what? That was from 1986. My bad. Man, that almost makes it worse. Anyway, if you don't know what's going on and you haven't really kept up, so let me get you up to speed. And if you haven't seen these images going around social media, honestly, God, initially I want to say good for you because they're pretty brutal. But by the same token, you know what? You should be paying attention to this stuff because it matters. It matters. It really does matter. So if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Israel is facing backlash for a deadly airstrike killing dozens of Palestinians at a camp in Rafah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling it a tragic mishap, saying they were targeting two Hamas leaders.
Let me jump in here. So targeting two Hamas leaders, which obviously is always the statement, but remember,
what terrorists do is target the innocent deliberately. And therefore, my definition of terrorism
2024.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is calling it a tragic mishap, saying they were targeting two Hamas leaders.
This has been the MO the entire time. This is a complete broken record. And again, I'm just calling a spade on this. I really am. Every single time. It's been the same exact thing. They're targeting two Hamas leaders, and that is the justification for the killing of, this time it seems like 45. Obviously it's been hundreds into the thousands.
It comes just days after the UN's top court ordered Israel to immediately halt its military operation in Rafah. Here's ABC's Britt, Klinen.
And again, remember, this also comes on the heels of the ICC, the ICJ, and the UN basically saying halt operations in Rafah. And by the way, this happened after they said to do that. So that obviously fell upon deaf ears.
Tonight, screams of horror amid a burning inferno. The frightful, frantic moments after Israeli strikes engulfed a refugee camp in western Rafah on Sunday night. Desperate attempts to put out the flames, people scrambling to rescue anyone they can. At least 50 killed and 249 injured in the overnight attack, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. Many people treated with severe burns and shrapnel injuries. Tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling the strikes a tragic mishap, saying there was a technical failure and that the incident will be investigated.
I've said this before. Again, these are the times he only does interviews in Hebrew. He doesn't do them in English. But again, he said it was tragic, there was a technical failure, and it will be investigated.
The strikes hitting the Tal al-Sultan area. Manal Salman saying, "We were in the tents and suddenly we found rockets falling on us in the same place. There is nowhere safe for us to go." Her family now forced to move for the 8th time.
Her family now forced to move for the 8th time in 7 months.
The IDF claiming they were conducting an intelligence-based strike, which killed 2 senior Hamas officials, stating they regret any harm to uninvolved civilians during combat.
Again, if you haven't seen any of these images, honestly, probably better that you don't. But if you have seen these images and they've been all over social media, they are pretty insane.
The White House speaking out, a National Security Council spokesperson calling the images out of Rafah devastating and heartbreaking.
All right. Anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit of that because obviously it's a big part of what's going on in the news and what people are talking about. So if you are someone that doesn't really keep up with that stuff, at least you'll have a good working knowledge over, oh my God, I hate to even say the latest and greatest, but I guess the latest definitely in terms of what's taken place in that situation. So I did want to say, moving on, that it looks like on Friday, and by the way, I think this is the plan. My guest interviews, I'm going to launch them on Fridays, probably not every Friday, but probably every other Friday. I mean, we'll see. Who knows? I am getting a ton of requests now, which is pretty cool. But I'm going to try and start off this Friday with Wendy Cole. Wendy, again, just as prep, I think you guys will really enjoy the conversation. It's a really interesting conversation, and you know, it's about authenticity more than it is even about being transgender. But the transgender part is pretty insane. She transitioned at 67 years old, and she decided to have full on sexual reassignment surgery. And I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. I'm going to release these on Friday because they're almost like an hour and 15 minutes or so, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. So that way you've got the ability to break it up over the weekend if that makes sense, considering you're used to my 20-minute episodes. But anyway, that's a good one. I am editing or getting edited the interview with Jonathan Bogner, who had a heart transplant. That's going to be really cool. He's the only dude I know who has a heart transplant, so it'll be interesting to hear from him under the resilience tab. And then I've got some really good interviews lined up. One of them, this one's going to be pretty fascinating, but it is with a Jewish rabbi who lives in Jerusalem. So he's literally going to be, I was about to say Skyping in, but who Skypes anymore? Does anybody Skype? Oh my God, remember how much we used to Skype? I know Skype still exists because I actually still have a Skype profile with like $12 in it. So if anybody out there wants to Skype sometime, let me know. I've got like $12 to spend on a Skype conversation. That's hilarious. I was literally about to say Skyping. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. I'm dating myself a little, and then also just, good Lord, where's my brain? But anyway, he's going to be really interesting. He's a super nice guy. And what's cool is in our initial conversation, I mean, we definitely don't see eye to eye on this thing, but it's going to be an incredibly respectful conversation and one that hopefully will give us a little more understanding about religion as well, because I would like to bring on some experts in each segment of religion to really bring some light to that stuff. I think that's going to be really interesting. Then I also have a guy named Noah that I'm bringing on. He is an expert in algorithms. So he's going to help sort of pull back the curtain a little bit and help us understand these algorithms that seem to be dominating our lives, whether it's social media or on Google or let alone ChatGPT and this whole world of artificial intelligence. Dude is legit, absolutely legit. So I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. And then the fourth one that's in the queue is with this young guy that is my eyes and ears when it comes to Generation Z. And so we're going to really delve into the mindset of Gen Z and try and talk about that. You know, I think a lot of you might have kids that technically are Gen Z. So, you know, it'll be interesting to get your take on that perspective. But overall, I think that's a good one as well. And then there's a bunch more coming. So anyway, the Deep Shallow Dive guest interviews are going to start to finally happen. And hopefully, like I said, we'll take things to another level in terms of the breadth of things that we talk about on this podcast. All right, shifting gears. Pretty interesting thread. Ironically, on Threads. Is anyone on Threads? A lot of people are on Threads. I mean, I don't really find it all that useful, although I do post and there are a few people that I do follow there. But let me read you this because I saw this and I thought, man, this is some interesting answers. So this gal that I follow posted something. It said, what's the biggest scam in the history of mankind. So again, what's the biggest scam in the history of mankind? And I'm going to read you some of these answers. Marriage, Western Christianity, taxes, religion, Herbalife. Oh, that's funny. Car insurance, religion, capitalism, the price of college, trickle-down economics. Oh, that's like from the Reagan era. Marriage and religion, Christianity and the church, religion. Imagine how far mankind would come without religion. Wow. This one's interesting. Creation of Israel in 1948. Okay. Having kids, huge pyramid scheme. That's funny. The American dream, capitalism and free market. Alcohol. I don't know if alcohol is the biggest scam in human history. I've had some good times on alcohol. All right. The social construct of race. Interesting. And then, man, another one. By 1,000 miles, it's religion. No wars were ever started in the name of atheism. Oh my God, that's an interesting statement. Most people have been killed in the name of religion than any other reason. It's the core reason of planetary insecurity. It's also fucking stupid. Wow. That's how you know how many stupid people there are on the planet. It's way, way, way more than a sane person ever realizes. Man, that is interesting, and that's by some dude with no pick and a goofy profile name, so he is trying to stay off the radar. Okay, man, let me see. What else? Oh, this is an interesting one, and actually, this is kind of a setup for a couple clips I wanted to play. Climate change scam. Climate change was estimated at 90. Oh, I'm sorry. The climate change scam has estimated already to have cost $96 trillion. The climate is fine. All right, I'm going to stop there because ironically, I do want to start to talk about that concept a little, and I'm trying to get a few experts on that as guests, and I did find 2 people already. But let me play this. This is an interesting clip. All right, so the first segment is 1983 on NBC News. Again, 1983 NBC News.
Federal report today predicted possible catastrophic warming of the Earth by the 1990s with a strong climate change.
All right, again, remember that was 1983 predicting catastrophic warming of the Earth by the 1990s. Now let's go to 2020. So this is 2020, and I think you'll recognize the voice.
What the scientists are telling us, that we don't get our act together within the next 8 or 9 years. We're talking about cities all over the world, major cities going underwater.
So that's Bernie basically in 2020, which was 37 years. I had to check that math in my head real quick. Yeah, 37 years later. So that was Bernie Sanders basically saying the same thing. So, I guess we've been 8 or 9 years away from climate change Armageddon for the past 50 years. That's interesting. That's interesting. More to come on that.
What do you make of global warming?
I read the original UN study years ago, and I was just curious as to how they were going to deal with the question that the temperatures went up first, and then there was the increase in carbon dioxide.
Right. Because
you can't say that A causes B if B happened first.
Dang, I guess more to come is coming now. Sometimes I want to play things as like a teaser and a setup, and then I'm like, oh wait, I've got this clip too. So, all right, so this is literally one of the world's most respected scholars, Thomas Sowell, on the man-made global warming scam, as he calls it. So give this more of a listen.
And so I read this, and I could see they were tiptoeing through the tulips and the way they phrased things and so forth. They couldn't confront that. And now we're finding out that they knew darn well they couldn't deal with all the evidence.
All right, pay attention. I love this part. And by the way, this clip is from the 90s. It's like 1992.
So it fits the pattern of a group of intellectuals, climate scientists who have a very narrow competency, suddenly proclaiming that there's a crisis, scaring the rest of us, thereby creating a demand for their services.
Yes.
I swear, journalism used to be so much more honest back then. I seriously love this.
Not as climate scientists alone, but as a kind of high priestly caste that can tell us all how to live and save the entire planet, and in the meantime generate billions of dollars worth of government programs to fund their research initiatives. And so it's a racket.
Yes.
All right.
But again, you have to take account of the ability of human beings to rationalize. I'm sure there are scientists out there who believe some or much of what they're saying, and there are other scientists who believe the opposite. But the ones who are pushing global warming are doing their damnedest to make sure that those who believe the opposite don't get heard in the public.
This is seriously such a powerful interview, and you could literally substitute the COVID discussions from 2020 to 2022 for this conversation between these two guys.
So shouldn't there be some large-ish body of climate scientists who say the data really does suggest that we're headed into trouble here, but precisely because my saying so as a climate scientist will look like special pleading, we as a community of scientists should be even more careful about being completely transparent, pushing the data out to the public. They should overcome the hurdle that it looks like self-pleading. Why isn't that taking place?
That's a great question, and I will add something to this. It's the two things I've talked about that are bad business, and that is peace. Why is peace not taking place? And good health. Why is good health not taking place for people?
There's no payoff to that.
All right.
Shucky ducky quack quack.
Imagine yourself as an assistant professor in some department where your senior colleagues who are going to vote on your pay, among other things, have millions of dollars in grants handed out to promote global warming, and you say just what you just now said, and they'll say this guy is incorrigible.
A new topic of discussion. A new topic of discussion on a deep, shallow dive. All right. Hey, you know what? It's worth talking about. It is worth talking about. So now I'll say more to come on that, and I promise I won't play another clip about that stuff. All right, originally I was just going to play this clip and then talk about it. You know how I like to do that. I like to show off my editing skills, but I've got to set it up a little bit. So this is talking about the Caitlin Clark situation. And by situation, I mean, if you remember, Caitlin Clark is the college basketball player, the white chick from Iowa, who she's awesome. She really is awesome. And she is now in the WNBA. And you know what? She's bringing a lot of excitement to the WNBA. She's bringing a lot of eyeballs to the WNBA, which is great because that's what it needs. And so this clip was Whoopi Goldberg and that Sunny, I don't know what that lady's last name is, man, she has awful takes. But this was them talking, and then a guy named Brandon Tatum who just cooks them.
These women are deranged.
Jamel Hill compares Clark to Steph Curry for being relatable to fans, but claims the fact that she's a straight white woman plays a big role in the hype around her. It's not the numbers that she puts on the scoreboard.
I do think that there is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. Part of it is about race. I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive.
What are you talking about, woman? She's smart, she's pretty, she a baller, she's got a sex appeal, and she ain't ghetto. The reason why some of these people are not marketable because they super butchy and ghetto. What they gonna market you? Makeup? You look like a dude.
He absolutely cooks them. But here's my favorite part, and actually, I think this is the most poignant part of what he says.
If women were so bent out of shape that women's basketball, half of the population is women, why don't y'all support women's basketball? Where y'all at in the stadium seats? Where y'all at buying the jerseys? Go to any WNBA game. Why is it not full of women?
And that, my friends, is the textbook definition of calling a spade a spade. For all the women, well, first of all, the Caitlin Clark thing, anybody that brings race into that, then you are a race baiter. You are a total race baiter. That girl can play. She can flat out play. And here's the thing. I think everyone should be happy that she's bringing more eyeballs to the WNBA. Nobody cares about the WNBA. Nobody cares about the WNBA. I'm sorry to say that, but that's kind of true. And women in particular, I personally don't know one girl that watches the WNBA. So they're not even supporting that cause. I guarantee you that Sunny, whatever her last name is, and Whoopi Goldberg, they don't support the WNBA, but they're immediately quick to bag on Caitline Clark. And that's BS. I mean, honestly, everybody should be rallying around her and the WNBA in general. Because you know what? I actually watched a game the other night, and it was good. It wasn't bad. I mean, again, I don't know if I'm going to make it a regular habit, but I will say if more excitement comes to the sport from Caitline Clark, that's amazing. That's going to bring more advertisers. That's going to bring, more people and more eyeballs to the WNBA. So why would you want to turn this into a race baiting situation or anything besides positivity around Caitline Clark? Again, especially because the girl can ball. She really can. She can play. And there's no denying that. All right, that's about it. I'm at 21 minutes. I'm gonna leave you with my guy Mike, who is an absolute real one. Not only for his comment, but for the way he doubled down at the end. Call a spade. Be like Mike.
Tiffany's no longer my girlfriend.
Thank God, dude. That woman was the craziest person I've ever met in my life.
Oh, hold up. We're engaged now. She's my fiance. She's no longer my girlfriend. She's my fiance.
What the hell, Mike?
I am so sorry. And she's your fiance. Bye.
Oh my God!
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.